The Rugby World Cup kicks off today, and I cannot be more excited for this one. I've been waiting for fantasy, since the Six Nations ended really, but the World Cup is the pinnacle of this 4-year cycle. And what a game we have to kick it off. We've got France, number 2 team in the world, and host nation with debatably the best player in the world as their captain, up against New Zealand, who are no slouches themselves. Some people are probably writing them off and have not even got them as favourites to win, but you just can't do that to this All Black side. So tonight is going to be epic. Let me know down in the comments who you think is going to win the opening game. In this video, we're going to look at my team selection for round 1 of the Rugby World Cup. Now stay tuned, and if you do enjoy fantasy, then please leave it a like, subscribe to the channel, and also comment below your side or your recommendations that I may have missed. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So to kick us off, in the front row, I've gone with Angus Bell, Ryan Elias and Taniele Tupou. Now Angus Bell I had in my top picks in a previous video. He's just actually on form, probably Australia's best player coming into the World Cup. He carries the ball super well, and Australia, if they are to get out the group, they need to beat Georgia, and they've named a pretty strong side for that opening game. Now, many of you might be thinking, why have you picked Ryan Elias when there's so many better hookers out there? Well, for one, is budget, but also two, I do believe Wales will get out the group and most likely top it. It's just Gatland. He knows how to play, and to be honest, their pack is pretty decent. They've got a great back row. The second rows are going to be generals in the line out, and even though Ryan Elias isn't their captain in Dewey Lake, I think he's pretty good for a try or two here or there. And then finally, we've got Taniele Tupou. Now, what a player to bring in. He has had his injury worries, but Tupou, his ball carrying, along with Angus Bell, is just second to none. Maybe some of the best props in the World Cup at carrying the ball. We'll have to see about their scrummaging, but to be honest, Tupou is an absolutely wrecking ball, and I'm so excited to see him play, especially under Eddie Jones. In the second row, I've gone with Marco Kramer from Argentina and Australia's captain, Will Skelton. Reasons for picking Kramer: I do actually believe Argentina are favourites for the game against England, and if they beat England, will probably top the pool. Kramer is also down as a second row in fantasy, but he's playing on the back row against England. So he's going to get more opportunities to get off the base of the scrum, get over the ball, win turnovers, which England are pretty dire at defending at the moment, and attacking. So if Argentina are to win, it's going to be because of that massive back row, Gonzalez, Kramer and Matera. So I think he's going to go well. Will Skelton as well. Many of you probably thought coming into this I wouldn't have picked 3 Australian players, but they are up against Georgia, who are maybe the weaker side. They do have good players and have had a good run up to the World Cup. However, I do believe in the Eddie Jones theory. He performs at World Cups, and Will Skelton, much like Bell and Tupou, is going to carry and just get lots of shots in. So he's their captain as well, so he needs to stand up to the plate. I think he's going to do it. Now, my back row, I'm actually pretty impressed with. So we've got Jimeno, Lamaro and Jack Morgan. Touching on Jimeno first, he's Japan's captain for this World Cup, so he's going to perform with a heart of gold. And he's their 8, so he literally gets on the ball so often, can make up to 15 carries, if not more, a game. And they are playing Chile, which is their first World Cup, so I do expect it to be a pretty big score. Also, with his move to the Highlanders, he's had Super Rugby experience, so I'm going to expect him to lead from the front and perform pretty decently against what is probably the weakest side in the tournament in Chile. Next up is Italy captain Lamaro. Much like Jimeno, it's got an amazing first fixture against Namibia. And he's only 4.5 credits, which is an absolute steal for an Italian captain who have two really decent fixtures in both Namibia and Uruguay in their group. The points we're going to get now for not only turnovers, but tackles, carries, is just going to be immense. And this back row, especially Lamaro, are going to lead from the front with that. And finally, we've got another Welsh player, but this time Wales' captain for the tournament, along with Joey Lake, is Jack Morgan. Now, Jack Morgan is hands down Wales' best player at the moment on form. I just think he's pretty decent, not only for fantasy points, but in the game. He just makes such dominant hits. He does obviously remind us a little bit of Sam Warburton, maybe a bit shorter and stockier, but his power is immense. He also, not only with his defence that he's probably known for most, but his attack in the wide channels are pretty decent as well. He carries hard and also gets on the back of a try or two. So Jack Morgan against Fiji, for me, almost picked him as a defensive pick as well for boosters. He's a no-brainer. And then at half-backs, I've gone with my player of the tournament in Antoine Dupont and Paolo Garbisi for Italy. We all know what Antoine Dupont is capable of. Like I just said, for me, he's probably going to be player of the tournament if France do go on to win the game and the tournament. I just think opening against the All Blacks, this guy doesn't feel pressure. So he's going to perform just like he does if it was Ireland or Italy in the Six Nations, for example. He's made for the world's biggest stage, and today is like no other. So I believe fully in Antoine Dupont. Even though they might not win the game, he's going to get a shed load of points because he's just going to be on the ball constantly, kicking, passing, getting off the back of France's silky backs moves. I just think he's fantastic, and if he's not in your team, then let me know down in the comments who you've picked otherwise. Next up is Paolo Garbisi, who have an amazing fixture against Namibia for the opening round, and Italy have gone full strength. The only problem I see here is Garbisi maybe isn't nailed on to kick. Tommaso Allen is playing 15, so that might take away a little bit from his points as opposed to another 10 who's more likely to kick. However, we know Garbisi loves to play. He plays for Montpellier as well in the top 14 who love to play too. So the only thing here is he might not be kicking for goal, penalties, stuff like that. But it is against Namibia, so I do expect him to get on the ball and score some pretty decent points. Next up, in the centre, I've gone with Gary Ringrose and Nakamura for Japan. Now, probably the best fixture of the opening round is world number 1 side Ireland versus Romania. Now, Gary Ringrose, we all know what he can do. He's absolutely amazing, and if you've played Six Nations Fantasy before, you know that he's up there with point scorers in the whole game. The only downside I see here is Robbie Henshaw is on the bench, so more than likely it's going to be Bundy Aki or Gary Ringrose to go off, maybe 60-65 minutes. However, by then I think the damage will probably be done, and Gary Ringrose maybe would have scored a hat-trick. So I think for this game, Ireland or 3 Ireland players are definitely a no-brainer. And Nakamura, again, probably someone many of us don't know, but he's actually the most selected centre in all of fantasy so far. Why? Well, he plays in Japanese League for the Suntory Sun Goliath. His value is 5.5 and they're against Chile. And as you can see, he's an absolute player. He's played with Bowden Barrett at Suntory, so knows his way around the pitch. He's going to be crucial for that Japan backline and opening up that Chile defence. So he's not a differential pick because over 20% have picked him, but I think he should be in your team. And finally, my back 3, probably most excitingly, I've gone with Hugo Keenan as captain with triple boosted on Ange Kapuatsu and Keith Earls. Starting off with Kapuatsu then, I mean, Italy have a pretty tasty fixture, if I'm honest, against Namibia. I've picked 3 players now, Lamaro, Garbisi and Capuzzo. He's not playing 15, but he is playing on the wing. But I do expect him to have his same flair, get on the ball, and wreck that Namibian defence. Now, you might be thinking Keith Earls is a pretty interesting pick, but he's off the back of some really good form. Obviously, won his 100th cap against England and scored in pretty good fashion, really. This is obviously going to be his last World Cup, so against Romania, he's been selected. Maybe not as the number one pick. We've also, remember, got James Lowe, Mac Hansen, who have been performing brilliantly. But the reason why I've picked Keith Earls, and probably not maybe a back row or 9 or 10 for Ireland, is because there's actually no back three player on the bench. So I'm pretty confident that Keith Earls and both Hugo Keenan are going to play for the entire game. Which leads us nicely on to my captain, my triple captain for the round in Hugo Keenan. So my strategy behind this, Hugo Keenan, pretty much maybe Ireland's best player, to be honest. He's just so slick, doesn't do anything too special like a Bowden Barrett or fullback, but he just does the basics really well. And like I said, he's my triple captain because there's no other back three player on the bench for Ireland. Robbie Henshaw is the only outside back, to be honest. So I'm pretty confident Hugo Keenan is going to get a full 80. And against Romania, I mean, they smashed England. They smashed most of the Six Nations side, to be honest. So why not Romania? And Johnny Sexton is back, going to want to prove a point in his final World Cup. Honestly, it's a no-brainer for me. So there we have it. That is my team for round 1. Let me know what you think down in the comments. To be honest, I think I'm going to top the JG Rugby League. So let me know your differential picks down in the comments or any players I may have missed. If you like the video, then subscribe to the channel. Good luck in round 1, and I'll see you in the next one.